and they accepted a very crude style of Islam itself, but they were anyway called Muslims. One of their, you might say, trend is the Mughal emperor itself in India, the Mughal kingdom. They are also Mongols in reality. So they are those fashionable, modern, stylish, or very romantic heroes which we all look to, and we are very proud of these people. What beautiful, but it was not Islamic. Again, according to this lecture of today, nothing was distributed in accordance with the Quranic point of view. It was all for the kings, all for the upper classes. And some of them were good, like they show now in the movie going on right now is Akbar, Jodha Akbar, of course. That Akbar was a very benevolent king, and he finally made Hindus and Muslims equal. And he was marrying Hindu ladies, of course, absolutely against the Quran, but he had a support from Sufism. So he has been rightly portrayed in the film as a Sufi. They have even shown the whirling dervishes, of the Sufistic tendencies, that he was a Sufi, but he was also a very cruel king at some times. But anyway, let's give him that he was a Sufi, and Sufism always makes Hindus and Muslims and everybody very much alike. So he was right in that he took to Sufism, and he was very powerful. Nobody could speak against him. All the mullahs had to accept what he was saying. Finally, if we look at 1258, when the Mongol hordes finished Islam, there was a total depression on the Islamic world. They didn't know, they lost hope in Islam actually totally. So what were the two trends that came up to give them false hope? They are called fundamentalism, according to me, and one big trend, and the other was Sufism. Of course, the Shias and Sunnis are present there already. So the Sufis, you might say, were represented at that moment after 1258, when the Mongol hordes destroyed us completely. We had our greatest, most beautifully, you might say, most beautifully presented Shairi of Maulana Rum. And on the other hand, we had Ibn Taymiyyah at the same time. Ibn Taymiyyah the word fundamentalism was not used at that time. This is a very modern word, but anyway, if you study him, it is all fundamentalism, it is all Sharia. On the other side, you have Tariqa and Maulana Rum presenting it in a very, very beautiful style, so the whole world is still impressed by whatever he has to say. So this was the Tasawwuf in the garb of Islam. There was Sharia in the garb of Islam. Again, they did not make any dent, of course, with the Muslims. The Muslims never came back with all their power again, except maybe for a little while. It was the Turks that took over as Ottoman Empire, and they were also finally thrashed out. The Arabs never cooperated with them. The English, of course, got rid of them. And in India, we had the Mughal Empire that went down, and the English, of course, took over. So all this while, the Muslims have been suffering. I mean, they have never really been shown the third way, the real way of the Quran. It's always Quran mixed with something else. Always Quran mixed with either, the esoteric, the secret way of the Sufis. So they say you are God in yourself. So everybody is God. And that's it. And everything is God finally. All the creation has come out of God, and finally we will go back Rajion into the God himself. So they were saying, okay, this has come out from, of course, Christianity to begin with. Christianity brought up mysticism. And God says in Quran that mysticism was not given by God. The Christians made it up, and they could not do any justice to it. Similarly, we have made up Sufism, and we cannot do justice to Sufism also, because it demands a lot of love and care and all kind of things, and which has never happened. Sometimes the kings may have taken it up and just put it in order because of their great power. On the other side, you have always the fundamentalism, of course, of Ibn Taymiyyah. Very, very, of course, highly read and very, very, of course, you might say, vast knowledge on everything. But that was all again based on Sharia, and it was a very militant sort of an Islam, out of which they say came Abdul Wahab in Arabia. So Wahhabism is also linked to that. Then we have Maududi in Pakistan, who was linked to that. So that's come through all these people with a lot of other names in between. On the other side, you have nobody up till the movement of Pakistan, that Iqbal, who was a Sufi himself, sort of drifted away from Sufism into the Quran and finally discovered the beauties of Quran or the wishes of the Quran and said we must have an independent society where the Quran can be implemented and practiced. Of course, all the mullahs understood what he's saying, so they were against him. But anyway, he picked up a guy who looked like a secularist completely, without any beard, a very modern-looking, thin sort of a guy who was mostly studied in England. The guy, the Jinnah, Mr. Jinnah himself, and later came, we have been calling him Quaid-e-Azam, because he, in the time period of about 10 years, came back. He was very much in favor of, to begin with, he was like Akbar. Hindus and Muslims can live together. Hindus and Muslims can live together. Even Iqbal was like that for a period of time. But then they realized that, okay, Quran doesn't do that. Hindus and Muslims will live together, but in a society of Muslims, they have to be taken care of. You take care of them, but they do not sort of take up your position of authority, that you have to make your own decisions about what to do, what God says. If Hindus do not agree to what God says, they have to just live there nicely, peacefully. We take care of them, and they do not even go into to fight the enemies in the army, things like this. So Quaid-e-Azam made Pakistan, and Mountbatten was there, who was dividing India.